Welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. Today is January 25th, and tomorrow we have the AFC and NFC championship games. So we're here to break those things down, talk about our best bets for the games, and then I know Slade, we can kind of kick the show off with some football and then work our way back to the playoffs. But Bears hire Ben Johnson as head coach. I think a lot of people saw this move coming. They got their probably their number one choice, kind of the number one hot commodity, if you will, of all the coaches out there available. I know they lost this past week, but the Lions did give up Ben Johnson to the Bears. So how are you feeling about that?
I mean, coming into the off-season coaching search, it felt like it was Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson and everyone else. However you want to rank them, one or two is fine with me. Two totally different archetypes as coaches, a defense first guy with experience, maybe some stale offense, maybe a little rigid of a personality in Mike Vrabel.
I do want to add with Vrabel, in his presser for the Patriots, he said teams who rush the ball at least 20 times a game win 70% of games. I feel like saying that in your presser is not a good sign. I mean, it helped you, Derrick Henry. We don't have to get into that, but I don't think that's something you want in Chicago or really any team almost.
No, I think he's a guy who's going to come in and he's going to run a professional organization, and the floor of whatever team he went to was going to be elevated. I know you loved Gerard Mayo, but it just didn't work out in New England. So I think he'll go there and he'll have them playing better football, but will they be able to win a Super Bowl playing his style? I don't know. He does not have a Derrick Henry on that roster. But yeah, for a team with a young quarterback, I think Ben Johnson is the guy I wanted. Him being excited about Caleb is like a validation for Bears fans that the best offensive coordinator in the game, maybe outside of Andy Reid or however you want to decide who that is, like he likes our young quarterback. He liked him over some of these other teams, other opportunities, over partnering with Tom Brady, who I think was probably next up for Ben Johnson if he had a second choice. Yeah, it was those two, or like you're trying to get a guy who is still employed, because I think once you got down the list, you're going to have to talk yourself into something that maybe is, you never know, but it just didn't feel like I said, you're going to have to talk yourself into it. I was already preparing for the Mike McCarthy era.
Yeah, I know we were very close to that, but you did land Ben Johnson. And I guess before we get into playoff action, I did want to talk one more thing about Ben Johnson. Did you see the reports, whether they're true or not, regarding him and his interest in the Washington Commanders job last season? So if you remember, that was kind of the big head coaching carousel storyline, was Ben Johnson was going to return to the Lions for one more year to try to win a Super Bowl. And basically what I was seeing on the internet was that Ben Johnson was a little bit turned off by the Commanders. He originally wanted to go there, but was turned off because he felt they were basketball guys. Because as you know, their owner, Josh Harris, also owns the 76ers. There's some Magic Johnson involvement now.
Bob Myers,
exactly. So he was a little turned off by that. But also, there's a report that when he was talking to Adam Peters, the GM said, hey, we're going to draft Jaden Daniels at 2, just giving you a heads up. That's our plan for right now. And he said that he wanted to build his offense around Sam Howell. Did you hear that?
I did not hear that. I have not heard that.
And after hearing that, they literally turned the plane around and didn't interview him anymore because he did not want to coach a dual threat quarterback. Is that true or not? I think it is. I guess I'm not 100% certain. And I hate to pour some water on the Ben Johnson coaching hire. I'm sure you're probably already wishing you had Mike McCarthy after hearing that, but I'm just playing. But I just thought that was interesting. So whether it's true or not, I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, we'll see what he does with Caleb. I don't think Caleb's a dual threat, so maybe he likes that. He worked with Jared Goff, so maybe that's just kind of the style he likes, is just not a running quarterback. I don't know. I don't know if that story's true. I've not heard a lot about that,
I'm
but
just saying, if you trade for Sam Howell in 2 years, this is why. I'll just leave it at that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel good. We've rated the Detroit staff. We've got, remember JT Barrett, former
I
Ohio
do.
State quarterback. Yeah, he was their assistant QB coach. He's gonna come over and be the Bears QB coach. Antoine Randall L joining the staff as a wide receiver coach. He was a wide receiver coach with Detroit. And then obviously Detroit lost Aaron Glenn. They lost their secondary coach. So knowing that we're weakening the strongest team in the division helps too.
No doubt, no doubt. I did want to add a fantasy football note too. Ben Johnson's slot receivers have been known to go crazy. I know, the kind of the sample size or example is Amon-Ra St. Brown. But with Roma Dunze in the slot next year, I mean, he already had like a pretty solid year. I know there's kind of some ups and downs and a couple injuries thrown in there. But I really think he could pop next year. I think that's a guy I'm going to be
Yeah.
targeting in fantasy and looking to bet those over. If we can get like over 850 yards or something like receiving yards, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what that number is going to be, but just want to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I agree. And Keenan Allen will not be back, I would have to imagine. And they force fed him the ball to the point where it was like, I think a lot of Bears fans were ready for the Keenan Allen era to be over because he just was not the same player.
Yeah, and that is a good point because those targets have to go somewhere. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right, congrats to the Bears. But let's get into AFC and NFC kind of championship. We'll talk about the divisional real quick and then preview the games. So one note I had: all four losing teams outgained the winning teams in their total yards gained, which I thought was pretty surprising. Just a couple kind of spark notes here. I have Chiefs aided by some favorable penalties and still won the game. I know they were up 11 and got the safety at the end. There's no denying that all the calls went their way. Um, I just don't. I do not
I
think.
think there was one that was really egregious, and I think the other ones were ones you see every week. It just isn't the Chiefs, and so they don't get the same attention. I was listening to someone on the radio, and they were saying that nobody has played more primetime games than the Chiefs. Nobody's played more nationally televised game than the Chiefs. More playoff games than the Chiefs over the last 7 years. It just increases your odds that you're going to see calls go either way. Um, things are always, and the thing about the Chiefs too is if you give them a second life, they almost always go back and make you pay for it. So if they do get a call, they almost always capitalize off of that bad call. Whereas like bad calls happen all the time, but maybe you don't care as much because that team still ends up punting or that team still ends up turning the ball over anyway. But when the Chiefs get that second life, the same way Tom Brady did, when you gave Tom Brady an inch, he was going to take a mile and he was going to score and he was going to make you like at the end of the game, you're going to be like, if that one call didn't happen, the Patriots don't win. It's the same thing. You just can't give them a second life. If it comes from the refs, it comes from a dumb penalty, earned or not, like they're going to make you pay for it.
Yeah, that's all fine. I get that. I mean, all these good teams, every team that's won a Super Bowl usually has one or two lucky breaks or any dynasty in sports. But if you're good, you put yourself in those positions to get lucky or get those breaks. So that is a fair point. But the head referee Ron Torbert and his staff for that game, they just got awarded the Super Bowl. I'm not sure how that's possible, but if Mahomes can somehow beat the Bills, which we can talk about, they will probably win the Super Bowl because of
I am
refs.
a little worried that there's going to be an overcorrection and like the league is hearing so much and these officials are human beings. If they start hearing so much like, oh, you guys are favoring the Chiefs, like are they going to start to go the other way to try to prove they're not biased?
The worst case scenario for that game is the Chiefs win by some penalties,
Exactly.
some egregiously wrong play. That will be the talk of the town because we have to wait 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. The first week is going to be all talking about that before you preview the game. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Like if anything, if you're the Chiefs, you don't want to lose the game, but you want some calls to go against you so that you don't have to hear about this for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, so the Chiefs are ultimately going to play the Bills. I believe that's the night game, Sunday night. Bills beat the Ravens. All I wrote here is playoff Lamar was back in action. I think he forced that interception late. obviously he put his team in a place to win the game at the end, or at least tie it up. Mark Andrews had a critical
Yeah.
fumble, a critical drop. Um, yeah, just not a good look for them.
Going into
Ravens
the
going home.
game, I asked you guys in the group chat, I was like, who needs this game more for their legacy, Lamar or Allen? And I think our decision was Lamar needed it more because, yeah, Allen hasn't made a Super Bowl or had like the playoff success of a Mahomes, but when he's lost, it's never been because of Josh Allen. Like he had a lead
Mhm.
with 13 seconds left, and the Chiefs drove down and kicked a field goal. Like that's not his fault. He does not have a playoff game where he's had multiple turnovers. Like he has played really well, and his team has let him down, or he's played just a better team. Lamar has been the reason the Ravens have lost, or he hasn't been the reason they've won. He was. I think this was actually one of his better playoff performances. It wasn't great though, but when you're comparing to some of his other ones in the past, it wasn't like, oh my God, Lamar was awful tonight. It was just he wasn't a star tonight.
Yeah, yeah, and it's tough because they had those 2 point conversion plays, and obviously easier said than done. Hindsight's 2020, but if they redid those two plays and they just did two handoffs to Derrick Henry, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way both of those are stopped or some sort of read option. There's just no way.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
but yeah, Ravens going
So
home.
we
So we
have
have Chiefs. They're 1.5 to 1 point favorites against the Bills Sunday night. And then the game prior to that is obviously Eagles Commanders. Commanders beat the Lions. I just think the Lions kind of got off to a rough start. We had the Jared Goff pick six. He got rocked, kind of got checked for
yeah,
concussion, ended up being fine. And then from there, they're behind the eight ball. They're running trick plays way too early, like too much desperation. You don't need Jameson Williams throwing the ball
yeah.
that
There
early
was
in the game.
that was the
So
weirder game of the four. I would say I feel like that one was the just like the weirdest energy. Um, I mean, the Lions had 500 yards. They had a 98% success rate offensively. I don't know how they calculate that, but it seemed like they could score but something always they would screw one thing up. Like that pick six obviously was a killer.
yeah,
The Jamison Williams one. I don't look. Ben Johnson will take the L on that. I don't know if you. I'm sure he was told don't throw it if it's not there, but like you can't put Jamison Williams, who's objectively like he is not always making the smartest football decisions, and so to put him in a situation where he can screw you was not intelligent. But um, I mean, it wasn't like the Lions. I mean, they scored what 30 some points. Like the defense was just decimated. I'd say. Like I think that's what you can point is that just Aaron Glenn, good coordinator. I kind of felt bad for him. I'm glad he got a job, but that defense was like a shell of itself from the first couple months of the season.
yeah. You mentioned he got a job. He's going to be going to the New York Jets. So I anticipate their defense kind of gets back to where it was 2 years ago with Salah. But yeah, it's they were just decimated. They had a couple more key injuries in that game. But I do want to call out Cosme, the offensive guard for the or is it the center for the Commanders. He went down with the torn ACL. I do not think that bodes well. They have the Eagles coming to town. If you
Jalen
watch the end of the
Carter.
Eagles game, yeah, exactly. Jalen Carter is he's peaking right now. He's never looked better. He's being super disruptive and losing a key piece inside of your offensive line. I don't like that.
Yeah, you can get
So
him plus money for a sack. Obviously, defensive tackles getting a sack on somebody as athletic as um, Jaden Daniels, I think plus money is probably still a fair number. But I do think that's going to be something that there's probably a lot of wagers on this weekend. So Vegas is probably hoping that he gets shut down or there's a lot of rolling out of the pocket and such. Um, but yeah, I think at the very least he's going to change the game plan for the Commanders.
yeah, no, I totally agree. So let's just dive into that game. Eagles 6.5 point favorites at home to the Commanders. It opened about 5.5 ish. I know Jalen Hurts was a little banged up and did not look good that second half of the game last week. Looked very limited. He took that sack kind of for no reason. It looked like someone was open, or he could at least
Mm-hmm.
maybe I don't know, threw it at the ground somewhere at someone's feet. But he said he's gonna play. He said he's probably gonna be wearing some sort of knee brace. So take that for what you will. What are your thoughts on this game? Do you have a side? It's 6.5 Eagles, over under 47.5.
I would not play the Eagles. I sprinkled a little bit on Commanders money line. I think the Eagles will win, but I don't think I think it's closer to a toss up. The Eagles. So Jalen Hurts is a weird player to me because, I mean, if you look at his playoff stats, he throws like 150 yards a game. I think he has maybe the easiest or best setup for any quarterback. Number one ranked O line. Saquon Barkley, who's probably the best running back, having the best running back season we've seen in I don't know how long. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, like they are a very, very loaded offense. And I think he's given the keys to a Porsche and told don't crash it. And that's what he essentially did last week. He did not have to do anything. Obviously, when the snow came down, you probably didn't want him taking a risk with the lead. Um, I would say the under 30.5 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts is something I'm leaning towards because of that knee brace. Why risk it? I don't even know who the Eagles' backup quarterback is.
Kenny
Should probably
Pickett.
look. Kenny, okay, yeah. I would not want him running a ton. I also took his under in his passing yards because, like I said, he's averaging under 150 yards a game outside of that Super Bowl that he lost a couple years ago. Like he is, I think he's at like 140 the last two games. I just don't think that you can expect a lot out of him. Saquon's numbers like 125 and a half.
That's got to be the
Would you take the
highest. That's
over?
got to be the highest
Yeah.
since like
I
Ladainian
took the under
Tomlinson.
just to kind of fade the like hype of it, but he averages like 25 carries. It's not like it's going to surprise me if he goes over.
And the Commanders' defense obviously is very middle of the pack at best. So
Yeah.
favorable for Saquon there. What about like I know Jalen Hurts kind of fading him. Do you think in their game plan they're going to try to run him early just so they can set up maybe some sort of play action or some
Yeah.
sort of read option jump pass or just anything to kind of get the Commanders off the scent that
I
he
think you
can't
have
actually
to
run?
because if he goes out there and is playing super conservative, like, yeah, they're going to pin their ears back and it's going to be all stopping Saquon. And that's like the one way you can. I still don't know if it'll matter. Like the last week, it wasn't like the Rams were oblivious to the game plan. They just still couldn't stop it. He's still capable of breaking 170 yarder.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm kind of torn on the side here because you saw with the Lions Commanders last week, there's so much variance in that game because both teams love going for it on fourth downs, and that could lead to a close game, to a blowout either way. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel the same thing about this game. Eagles, basically on anything 4th and 2 or less, if Jalen Hurts is healthy enough to do the tush push, they're going to be doing that. Commanders have had an all-time great 4th and short conversion percentage. So I I think the move is Commanders money line. Um, I wouldn't bet the plus 6.5. I think it's more likely that the Eagles just blow them out or Commanders end up winning the game. I think
Yeah.
it's one extreme or the other here. Be nice to get a close game, but that's kind of what I'm still trying to decide how I
Yeah.
want to bet it. I
Yeah.
think I think what I want to do is I'd rather bet Super Bowl MVP than bet on the Commanders. You can get Jaden Daniels 9-1 to win the Super Bowl, and I think if you think they're going to win this game, you can kind of have that in pocket going into next week. Because if they win this game, and whether he's playing Mahomes or Allen, Jaden Daniels will probably be like plus 200 in that game or something
Yeah.
along
I
those
agree.
lines. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I was going to say, from a player prop perspective, I already mentioned my Hurts plays. I also bet him to not throw a pick because I don't think he's going to have a ton of attempts. And I think he does not take a bunch of risks because he hasn't really needed to. Like, so that also made me say, hey, let's play Dallas Goedert. If you look at his playoff stats with the Eagles, he has been Jalen Hurts' security blanket, the tight end. So I think I played like over 3.5 receptions or something like that. So I expect another low attempts, like around 20 or fewer attempts for Hurts, a lot of little passes to Gainwell, to Saquon, to get Goddard. I haven't really touched any of the wide receiver plays. I mean, AJ Brown will throw a fit if he doesn't get the ball, so maybe you gotta play something there. But yeah, that's kind of why I see this grip going. I think the Eagles defense can make Jaden Daniels' life harder. Is Quinyon Mitchell healthy? I know he left the game injured last week,
I
right?
think we still need to check the status of him. He is.
That would be a big loss.
It looks like he's going to play. I think. Well, it looks like it's still undecided. I'm not sure. So that is definitely something to monitor.
Yeah,
I know they
because I
have,
mean, otherwise your other corner is a rookie, Cooper DeJean, who obviously we love, but I mean, you're talking about a rookie and a backup then going against Jaden Daniels.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kenyon Mitchell said he's playing on no limitations, so keep an eye on that for sure. Because I know they have Darius Slay. He's older. They have DeJean and Blankenship back there in their secondary as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Do you think, like, on the terms of 53 man 1 through 53, the Eagles are the most talented team left out of the four?
It's hard because I weight quarterback the highest, and
Yeah,
I think he's the worst quarterback by far. Especially because he's limited. Defensively, I think they're leagues above every other team left, though, and they have the best offensive line. So probably, I still think the Eagles have the best roster. I do think they would be slight favorites over the Bills and the Chiefs as well. But yeah, it's really the Jalen Hurts question. We saw him in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He went absolutely bananas. If that Jalen Hurts
that was his best playoff game.
Yeah, if that Jalen Hurts shows up, they will destroy any of these teams that are left, in my opinion. I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't think
agree.
that's going to happen. So, okay. Any of those plays you want to make official 6-pack plays? I forgot to ask you. Or if you want to,
I need to check what the official number is on Goddard.
Okay, you can. While you're looking those up, I'll preview this next game. So, Bills Chiefs. Chiefs 1.5-point favorites. Obviously, Josh Allen. Kind of his bugaboo in the playoffs has been Kansas City. Can't seem to beat those guys. If we want to go back to last year's playoff game, Chiefs won 27-24 in the divisional round in Buffalo. Mahomes only had 23 pass attempts because they were like all-time efficient in that game. The time of possession was Bills 37 minutes to Chiefs 23 minutes, and they were still able to rack up 361 yards, only turned it over once. And basically, they gave up a lead in the third quarter, but then Pacheco scored in the fourth, and then they held them off. So just very interesting. I don't think the game goes like that again. I imagine both teams will be throwing the ball quite a bit, and I understand why the Chiefs are the favorite. They're the defending champs. You need to go into Arrowhead and beat them. They've always had Josh Allen's number. But it's not like the Bills haven't been able to figure out the Chiefs' defense. They're kind of that one team that's able to put up yards on them. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, they scored pretty easily on them a couple months ago. Obviously, that was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And we also know the Chiefs have a different gear when it comes to the postseason. But I do think this is also a game that both teams, there's like a mutual respect, but also a mutual like dislike, I think, of each other. So I think from that aspect, that makes this game a little more entertaining. There's obviously the like Josh Allen is better than Mahomes stuff. But I think both quarterbacks are going to have a good day. I don't think the Bills defense is anything special. They have some injuries themselves. And then I think Josh Allen, I think he's always just matched up well with the Chiefs defense. So I've played props on both guys. Do you see Josh Allen getting in the end zone rushing? Because he's like not even he went from like a little bit plus money a couple rounds ago to then last week he was like even, and now I think he's like minus money a little bit. So a little bit over a 50. I guess Vegas is saying he's got like a 55% chance of like a rushing touchdown, and I think that's probably the right number.
I just wrote that down on our six-pack tracker. I'm taking Josh Allen anytime touchdown, minus 115 on FanDuel. Like you said, you probably could have got a better number earlier in the week. But if you can find anything plus
Yeah,
money, I would definitely bet that. I'm taking it minus
yeah,
115. And also, I want to add, like these playoff games, it's always interesting to look at kind of how the quarterbacks are unleashed. They're willing to take hits now. They're willing to run the ball more often. It kind of just opens up a little bit more offensively for these teams. So Josh Allen over 9.5 rush attempts at minus 140.
yes,
I think that's the
a
easiest
lock.
bet of the whole
Yeah,
week. That
I have that in parlays. I have Josh Allen anytime touchdown. This will be my third week in a row doing Josh Allen anytime touchdowns. Um, but yeah, I think 9.5. I kind of like Jaden Daniels going back to the other game for over his rush attempts. I can't remember the number, but I think it's going to be a similar thing where it's like 2 games left. The Jalen Carter like pushing him out of the pocket,
mm-hmm.
rolling out to the side. I think you're going to see him having to take off a few more times because that he's going to have to do those little things to get a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, Josh Allen, that's my favorite play of the day as well. And for the Bills game, I also like Mahomes. I bet him like 2+ touchdowns. And then I also bet over like 33 yards, longest play or longest pass. Because the Bills are down, two DBs?
Yeah.
And it's already a league average defense.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that. So I personally put on the 6-pack, 2 official plays, Allen rushing attempts over 9.5, and Josh Allen anytime touchdowns. Did you want to make any of
Goddard,
those 2-unit plays, or do you have plays of your own?
let's do the Allen one for 2 units.
Which
But the
one?
Goddard
Which one?
is
Over 9.5?
the Allen over 9.5.
Okay.
The Goddard catches one is 4 catches for minus 150. So I think that number's moved a little bit from earlier in the week,
Okay.
but I'll take it still.
Okay. So Dallas Goddard over 9 or over 4.5.
No, over 3.5. So 4 catches, okay. 4+ catches.
Over 3
is minus 150.
Minus 150. Okay. Very good. Very good. Some action on both games. And speaking of rushing, I just wanted to bring this up as well. I was listening to a podcast this morning. They were talking about this. So Mahomes, he always kind of has the devil magic where he can't get sacked. He has like amazing rushing plays in the playoffs. His over-under for rushing yards is 20.5 yards. So just on paper, seeing something that low, it always kind of makes me want to bet it. But this year, he had at least one rush attempt in every game other than one, and that was against the Bills. The last 2 playoff games against the Bills, he's had 2 years ago 8 rushing yards, and then last year 19 rushing yards. So Sean McDermott kind of runs a spy on him, and he's going to try to make him beat him, passing the ball and making plays, kind of saying, "Hey, I know you don't have the best wide receiver. I'm going to make them or Travis Kelce beat us." So I just thought that was very interesting. I thought that the Bills also did a really good job with Lamar last week as well. Lamar kind of broke one early in the game, and then after that, really did not do too much on the ground. So for anyone betting Mahomes rushing yards, that's just something, I guess, to think about. I'm not necessarily saying bet the under, but I don't think his over is as attractive as it would be against any other team.
Yeah, I think that Vegas is trying to get into people's head that classic Mahomes play where he looks like he's going to the sidelines and then the defense gives up and he tiptoes for like an extra 9 yards. That's the kind of shit that I think most people are thinking about when they think of Mahomes in a do or die playoff game rushing stats, where it's just like, of course that happens. But yeah, I'm not playing that one either. It is really nice. It's not the college way where it's like sacks count, because that is so dumb. I think I lost at least 1 or 2 parlays on the national title because of that.
Yeah, that was rough. So yeah, I guess we have no official plays on the sides in either of these games. So we have the Goddard over 3.5. We have Josh Allen over 9.5 rushing attempts for 2 units, and then we also have Josh Allen anytime touchdown around minus 115. Okay. So I guess gun to your head, if you had to pick, I guess I'm going I'll go Eagles Bills as my Super Bowl. What are you saying?
I'm going. I'm going Eagles Chiefs rematch.
Okay, looks like we're gonna have to run it back and go back to Cabo.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure. Like I said, I think the Eagles will probably be a 1 or 2 point favorite, and then we're gonna have to hear 2 weeks of the same narrative of, are you really gonna bet against Mahomes? As are you gonna bet against Mahomes or Mahomes as a dog? Like all that stuff against the same opponent. But the Eagles are probably a slightly better team this year.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, we'll see. I think all four teams are possible. Obviously, I think the Commanders are going to be the team with the longest odds,
yeah,
and that's probably fair.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And then before these games happen, I'm not sure if you've got a chance to look at, and this could be our last football topic. If you've gotten a chance to look at the Super Bowl MVP odds, I know they've had them up listed for the past couple weeks. Obviously, we have Mahomes plus 250, Josh Allen plus 260, then Saquon plus 450, Jalen Hurts plus 550, Jaden Daniels 9-1, and then it goes into position players. Most notably, Travis Kelce 40-1. I think he would have been MVP of the Chiefs game last week with Mahomes only throwing for like
Mm-hmm.
175 yards and he had 120 of them in a touchdown. So I could see that as being possible. Jalen Carter 95-1, Chris Jones 110-1. Um, I
40-1 feels like a decent value.
I agree. I agree. So
I mean, who else on that offense are you going to give it to? Kareem Hunt?
Pacheco 110-1, Kareem Hunt
Yeah, our
140-1.
boy, our boy who said the Chiefs are loaded because of Pacheco and Hopkins.
I think
Uh,
generational wealth. If you have an extra $500 laying around in your piggy bank, $500 on Damar Hamlin to win Super Bowl MVP will net you 160 grand. NFL would love that storyline.
I think the best value is probably taking like an Eagles wide receiver, like hoping Devontae Smith or like an AJ Brown, like the Eagles win and one of them goes off or something. Someone that's down the board for the
Yeah,
Eagles feels possible. Like because if the Commanders win, it's going to be Jaden. If the Chiefs win, it's probably Mahomes or Kelsey. If the Bills win, it's only Josh Allen. And so if you're going down the board, I feel like it's one of those wide receivers or weapons for the Eagles.
yeah. No, you're totally right. So Eagles are pretty top heavy. AJ Brown 32-1, Devontae Smith 65-1. So
I could totally see the Chiefs Eagles playing a low scoring game and then like a slant route to Devontae Smith for 70 yards.
100%,
And that's like the biggest play of the game.
100%.
Do you have any plays on Kelsey over or under 6.5 catches?
No, I don't currently right now, but honestly, I probably will bet that. I just don't know who else they're going to throw the ball to. I think Xavier Worthy is going to get some carries, and I think that they're going to take some deep shots with him and then Hollywood Brown as well. But if it's 3rd and 7, they're throwing it to Travis Kelce. I think the targets will be there. Are they actually going to connect on him? Would be the question, and I would lean towards yes.
Yeah, that one just makes me nervous because I feel like everybody and their brother is betting on Travis Kelce overs. And like last week, that plan hit. But I don't
He's
know.
gone
I
over
just
his
feel like,
he's gone over his catches and yards totals in like 15 straight playoff games. It's like something absurd like
yeah.
that.
So it makes you like a little worried that eventually you're going to get God on that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're ever going to regret making that bet if it loses. You're going to be like,
Yeah.
it is what it
Yeah.
is.
No, I agree. Okay, so yeah, just another way to attack the market there. What else does FanDuel offer? FanDuel's already offering anytime touchdown scores for the Super Bowl. If the team doesn't make the Super Bowl, the bet still gets graded. So, like for example,
So everything's juiced.
Josh Allen anytime touchdown in the Super Bowl is plus 270.
FanDuel has a boost right now. There's a boost on either AFC team, and it's like a mini parlay, and they add 50% profit boost to it. And like so for the Chiefs side, it's Travis Kelce 70 yards and a Chiefs win, which Travis Kelce's over under is 69.5. So basically they're saying he goes over his yards and the Chiefs win for plus 220, and then they'll give you a 50% boost. It gets it to plus 330.
Hmm.
And then I think for the Bills, it's some sort of Josh Allen prop and a Bills win. So those I think are good value. Obviously, you're kind of picking a side.
I think FanDuel and DraftKings do a good job with some of these weird prop bets, but at the same time, I do think they mix in ones that like they know will just totally screw you over. So
Yeah.
you just have to be smart about it, honestly.
Caesars is the worst at that. They'll give you like this crazy good value, but then they throw in one leg that they know is not going to
Yeah,
hit. But it looks awesome, and they'll be like, "This is normally plus 700, but we're going to give it to you for plus 900." But they know that one of those legs is like not actually in play.
yeah, yeah. That's how it goes. All right, just be smart with it. So yeah, we'll have another podcast next week, and the week after, because obviously there's gonna be a lot of Super Bowl prop bets. We'll try to get out in front of those, as well as some maybe talk a little. Maybe we should have a pod like 2 or 3 days before the game. Heck, maybe even the day before if it's an emergency. If we maybe find out the Gatorade color or first last song by Kendrick Lamar. So
Yeah.
yeah, some exotics to get into there too. Okay, closing out the show, couple other thoughts I wanted to go through. Question to you would be, what happened to Iga Swiatek? She lost to Madison Keys, and then Madison Keys ultimately beat Sabalenka in the Australian Open final last night.
I think it's just Americans are superior athletes.
Americans specifically from the Quad Cities. Shout out
Yep.
Quad City Tennis
Built
Club.
different.
So yeah, Madison Keys, happy for her. She beat the number 2 and number 1 players in back-to-back matches. So tip your cap. She definitely deserved to win this. I heard
What's the prize for that?
prize money,
Yeah,
like 3 million. I think it's something crazy.
that's nice.
Because if you made it to the semifinals, you got 1.1 million. So it only goes up from there. I do want to say,
Right.
I think Madison Keys switched her rackets from Wilson to Yonex, and apparently you
Oh,
have more control with how it's strung. I would have to dive into that a little bit deeper, but Madison Keys recently made the change. There was an Adelaide tournament the week before. She beat Jessie Pegula, who's a top 5 player in the world. Her parents own the Bills. And Jessie Pegula after the match said, if Madison Keys plays half as well as she did today, she will win the Australian Open. And she did. So I don't know if that's gonna lead to a lot more hard court success this year. I guess we'll see with Doha, kind of the Saudi Arabian swing, and then Indian Wells and Miami coming up too. So men's Zverev Sinner tonight, around 12:30 Pacific time. Sinner is obviously the better player, has the better record against Zverev. Zverev choked away 2 majors. Zverev has a big mental block when it comes to these high leverage matches, but he's going up against Sinner, who had to call the physio in the third set of the Ben Shelton match. He was up 2-0 and a break, and he still called the physio for a quick 5-minute medical timeout. Maybe still feeling kind of ill from his match 4 or 5 days ago, where he was just like totally dehydrated. So just something to keep an eye on, I guess. If I was going to bet Zverev, I think I'd bet on Zverev to win in 5. Otherwise, I think Sinner, if he can just close him out in 3. I think that'd
do
be
you
good.
have any plays on the doubles match?
I do not follow doubles at all. No. Are you
Oh,
talking women's? I
okay.
think it's Ostapenko in the finals.
I have a parlay of Sinner with a doubles final of Siniakova and Townsend. They are the favorite. So I parlayed the 2 favorites for the finals. That comes out to plus 115, and then I had a boost, so I got up to 140. That's my tennis play for the week.
I like it. Were you aware that Siniakova won the mixed doubles gold medal at the Olympics this past year?
I did not. I did not
Her
know who she was. I just saw they were favored. I'm like, I'll add that leg.
She won mixed doubles with Thomas Mahach, who was her ex-boyfriend, but they still decided to play together. And after the match, they kissed and made up, but then broke up a month later. So really winning the Olympic gold, if you want another month in your relationship, that'll do it, but doesn't kind of fizzles out after that from what we've seen.
I'm sure the spark was back for a minute
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, you're in Paris, man. What's not to like? Um, Okay. Any other sports talks before I go on my tirade to end the show?
No.
Okay. So we're talking Iowa basketball here. Um, as you know, I live in Los Angeles. There has been a lot of issues with the weather. There's been extremely dry weather in combination with very high winds, and that basically sparked up a bunch of fires in the Los Angeles area. Um, if you're an Iowa basketball fan, you know that Iowa was playing UCLA and USC this past week. The USC game, I believe, was on Tuesday, and the Iowa game was Friday night in Westwood, which UCLA's campus is probably 3 or 4 miles away from where the fires were. Um, Tom Kakert, one of the Iowa reporters, let's pull his profile up here. Let's see what this says. He's been covering Iowa Hawkeyes full time since spring of 2003, so 22 years. HawkeyeReport.com, beat writer for football, basketball. So he's pretty plugged in. He decided to post that the Iowa basketball team was potentially going to have their game rescheduled, which I have absolutely no issues with that. I think that's good reporting if you know that something like that's happening. I think the issue though is he had it behind a paywall. You had to pay to read information that was a direct result of a natural disaster happening on the West Coast. Literally, people's hundreds and thousands of houses are burning down. People are fighting for their lives, trying to save their pets, and you're posting information behind a paywall. And there's people flying in from Iowa or any other state, if you will, to come, and they don't know if it's safe, but they can't tell if it's safe unless they pay $2.99 to read your article. Dude, if you need that money, I I'll send you $1,000 right now, and that'll just cover every other paywall natural disaster post you ever make in your entire life. I think that was just blatant disrespect, just so inappropriate, and that's why I had a problem with it. So I tweeted at him. I said, posting this behind a paywall is crazy. Game isn't moving, by the way. He said, okay, then I guess the presidents of both schools discussing the game potentially having to be moved was just wasting their time. Okay, he's acting like he had a front row seat to this. So I told him, you're right, I have it wrong. You hearing from a friend of a friend of a friend, blah, 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 that they had a convo and posting it behind a paywall is a real waste of time. He told me I have them all figured out. I tweeted at him. I went to the game. I said, game still happened, whatever. I just think we can't let people act like this. I don't have a burner on Twitter. It's my real name. I am kind and respectful, except you cannot talk about a natural disaster and profit off it. That is crazy. The area in Los Angeles I live in, it's a safe area, thankfully. I'm very thankful for that. There are houses for rent for $12,000 a month. They recently just got bumped up to $30,000 a month to price gouge these poor people who lost their house. And I'm honestly wondering if Tom Kakert got his real estate license and is the one doing this. Honestly, because I think that is the same sort of just gross activity. So I just wanted to call this out. Big issue with that. If you need money, please let me know. Even if it's a ton of money, I'll work 3 jobs. I'll do whatever I can to siphon you money so that you can afford to not profit off natural disasters. It's like next thing you know, there's going to be a tornado in Iowa next year, and he's going to be like posting it behind a paywall. Oh, Iowa football team was on the bus during the tornado, and we're trying to find out if they're still safe, but it's behind a paywall. It's like that is the type of stuff he wants to do. It's absurd. So I had to talk about this. I've been stewing on this for 2 weeks. I cannot believe it.
I'll say I'm glad that you had 2 weeks to calm down, because
Yeah.
I know if 2 weeks ago this would have been way worse.
Yeah, would have been.
I think the Athletic and like some of those type of places, like they'll say like we're removing the paywall, or like ESPN Plus for certain types of news, like you mentioned,
Yeah,
like
it's like
things that
some poor
don't need to be a
individual got sick and it's some
paywall.
heartfelt story, or there's some story about like 9/11 and it's unlocked. I cannot believe I am thinking about writing a letter to Tom Kakert's boss, because that is ridiculous.
Well,
This is not the end of this. I promise you that.
so like if the game did get, and the thing is, if the game did get moved, like the first people to announce it would be the school. So it's not like you're getting any like information from that that's gonna matter.
All he did was induced fear to people for no reason. That's it. So
Yeah, I mean, all we did was put out there a hypothetical, a potential item that could change a game.
yeah. So that
But
being said, if you want to listen to his podcast, it's the Hawkeye Report podcast. We'll give him a quick plug. Sure, he's good at his job. You know, he's been doing it for a long time, but you have to be intentional with how you're spreading this
you think
information.
anyone actually like paid the subscription because of that article, or to like get that article?
No, no, not a
That's what I'm like.
chance.
There's no way he made any money
There's
off
not a
that.
chance. He wanted to.
Because it doesn't matter if they're talking about it or discussing it until they do it. Because until then, what are you going to do? Change your plans over a hypothetical? Like all you're doing is like giving people these. They're going to start doubting. Oh, is this game even going to happen? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's not like that conversation like is going to have any juicy intel from him.
Yeah. Well, I have like 5 other things I want to say, and I think we just need to end the podcast because I don't want to take things too far. So, thank you for letting me talk things through for a little bit. We're just going to be keeping an eye on what he's posting. That's all I'm saying.
I'll have to give him a follow because I don't think I follow him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for listening to that, listening to the show. We'll tweet our plays out as well. So make sure you're checking out our 6-pack tracker. Wish you guys all the best this weekend, and we will catch you guys next week to talk about these games and preview the Super Bowl. So with that, it's the end of this episode. Catch you guys next time. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.